Good afternoon. I'm James Barnes, and I'm going to be discussing Chapter 23, which is the case of web analytics influence. It is a balancing act as old as journalism chooses between the stories the audience wants, the stories that journalists from their training and experience believe people need. For a long time, journalists made these choices based on instinct and perhaps a little market research. Today, web analytics can instantly show exactly which stories audience members are reading, commenting on, and sharing on social media. So basically, they just giving a little summary about what is web analytics and how journalism is used in today's world. So here's the situation. Stacey Rodriguez was a web producer at the Florida Journal, a daily newspaper with an audience not just in its large metro area but across the country and around the world. At the time, the Journal's newsroom was organized around common command center, staffed with one photo editor, one copy editor, and editors from different elements of the paper, along with a web producer. The web producer had some control over what appeared on the home page and how the stories were arranged, but one of the editors from the command center always watched over the site and had the final say in news judgments. If the supervising editor wasn't there, the online producer would make his or her own judgments about the story, but those can be changed with the editor when the editor returns. So basically, Stacey Rodriguez, who is a web producer, has a Florida Journal date, and it's on the newspaper. So she has a very large audience. So on February morning in 2018, Rodriguez was managing stories for the site. The big story of the day was the unfolding Democratic and Republican primaries in 24 states, the Super Tuesday primaries for 2008 presidential election cycle. So that was one of the stories that she was managing. So who really decides the news? So the question was that Rodriguez faced: when does international news become important enough to take procedures over local news for a particular audience? When do the actions of a famous person become newsworthy, and how much more do these actions matter when the person turns up right there in town? On the other aspects of Rodriguez's dilemma were new, however, arriving only as newspapers caught in instant competition for audience, trying to make sense of the way their readers were using news online. Unlike their procedures in print-only media, web producers and editors can see which stories are the most read and the most discussed. The practice of collecting and analyzing data about a website use is known as web analytics. So basically, right now, Rodriguez is having a dilemma on, basically who decides what news go out, and how whatever news go out, how does that affect the person or whoever they're doing the news about? How does that affect them? So knowing which stories are engaging the public can be a great benefit to a news organization. It allows producers to react quickly, focus more resources and attention on trends that interest readers or issues they want to know more about. So the response. Rodriguez says she contemplated discussing the problem with other editors or hired managers, but decided not to, hoping it was just isolated incidents. So I feel like it was unethical for her to not discuss the problem. I feel like she should have discussed the problems, especially with her being the head and having this big worldwide journalism. I feel like it was unethical for her to do that. So basically, this is just a sum up of what Chapter 23 is about, just basically describing web analytics and in different situations and how, the news can affect people, and, just basically talking about, going back to who decides what news goes out. Thank you.